Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. EQA Nostalgia here, and today I want to talk to you guys about World of Warcraft. Now, before I get into anything else, I just want to mention that my PC sucks. It's like 6 years old. It's a piece of shit. It doesn't run the game good. My FPS blows, and especially when I run fraps, it just kind of chugs along. So you'll have to excuse that eyesore. But as you can see, I have played quite a bit of World of Warcraft. You can see my characters. They're not anything too special. I've only got one level 90. I have not played since Mist of Pandaria, but you can tell that I've spent a fair amount of time with the game. And I recently decided that I was going to delete this guy in favor of this guy because I've always liked dwarves, and the main reason why I rolled a troll about a year ago is because I was just playing on the Horde side, and I haven't really spent too much time with Alliance. I spent a little bit of time with them. But yeah, I really like dwarves. I have since EverQuest Online Adventures, and I had to have a dwarf. So I took all my twink gear and I just transferred it over. So I guess I should pretty much start from the beginning. I got into World of Warcraft probably a few months into the Burning Crusade, and I really enjoyed my experience with the game. I had a lot of fun with it. I especially liked the PvP. And unfortunately, my account was hacked, and I lost my characters, and which wasn't really a big deal. Blizzard reimbursed me quite a bit, which was really nice. They actually gave me a better character than I had before. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just kind of going through my mounts here. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I felt that it was, I don't want to say similar to EverQuest Online Adventures, but you can tell the developers had played EverQuest because all the races and a majority of the classes were quite similar, if not pretty much identical to EverQuest and EverQuest Online Adventures, and I liked that. I mean, I immediately liked the fact that they had the things that I was familiar with, and I also liked the fact that the world was pretty much wide open. You don't have to load in between zones unless you go to a different major area, like another continent or some shit like that. The dungeons, you had to load those. Those are instanced. That was a major difference from EQOA, because EQOA could just go into a dungeon and anybody can go in there. Which I don't know how I feel about that. I've had bad experiences with wide open dungeons where anyone can go in, waiting for spawns and just having too many people in the area. It's nice to be able to go into the dungeon, but it also sucks at the same time when it's just a Zerg fest down there. Anybody can come up and steal your shit. It just got obnoxious. But I remember when I first heard about World of Warcraft and how it was much more casual, I just kind of, shrugged it off like, just casual shit that I'm probably never going to play. I did like the way it looked. Aesthetically, I found it to be pretty awesome. I like the colors. I know there's a lot of people that don't like a lot of colors in their games. They like more realistic games. They don't like stylized graphics. I like stylized graphics, and I always have. If World of Warcraft would have came out with a realistic style, I think it's been like 10 or 11 years now, over a decade ago, it just wouldn't hold up as well as it does now. Stylized graphics tend to last longer. They have more staying power, and they just look better over time. I mean, obviously World of Warcraft is starting to look dated, especially when you've got it on settings that I've got it on. Even on Ultra, you can tell the game's getting old. Another thing I always liked about Warcraft and World of Warcraft is the story, the orcs versus humans story. I was always intrigued by that, going all the way back to like Warcraft 2, I think is when I started playing Warcraft. I really enjoyed Warcraft 3, the whole Lich King storyline, I absolutely loved it. But back in the day, when I hopped on with Burning Crusade, PvP, it was just awesome. Nowadays, I can't stand it because everybody's got a CC ability. Everybody has crowd control. And it's so fucking frustrating, man. I've tried to get into it again, and I actually ended up rage quitting a couple years ago on my death knight because every single time I got into a PvP situation in the battlegrounds or anything else for that matter, I would just get locked down, stunned or rooted or feared, and it just got so fucking annoying that it wasn't even fun anymore. So that was one of the things that just turned me off. The fact that I've personally feel that the PvP has gone to shit. It's just fucking garbage compared to what it used to be. I'd rather play League of Legends. I really can't stand it. It just frustrates the hell out of me. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to use your abilities, getting locked down and getting killed. It fucking drives me nuts. In the community in World of Warcraft, I mean, I found some pretty cool guilds. I've never really stuck with one. And the reason why I never really stuck with one is because I take long breaks from games. I haven't gotten into an MMO like EverQuest Online Adventures. That was the last MMO I really got into, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll play for like 3 or 4 months, and then I'm gone for like a year. And then I'll come back with the new expansion, which is what I'm doing with the game right now. I'll probably play it for a few months, and then I'll disappear again. But the main thing for me that I didn't like about World of Warcraft was the community. The community just turned me off. They were just, I don't know, man. Most people were just so toxic that it was absolutely ridiculous, to the point where I didn't even want to read chat anymore, especially in dungeons. I found that dungeons were really toxic. And towards the end game stuff, when you get into raids, I never really got into raids until Mist of Pandaria, and then I was doing the LFR stuff, so I never was a hardcore raid guy. I never was in EQOA or any other MMO for that matter. But, you know, from what I heard, LFR is not a very nice place to be anyway. But it just annoyed me that people were always checking your damage, you know. And I remember first getting into it, and people were like, oh, kick him, he fucking sucks, his DPS is garbage. And it's just a negative experience. People don't have patience unless you're in a guild and you're going through raids that way, which is probably my own fault. I never did that. But yeah, the community always turned me off. I remember trying to get my girl into it, and we would run dungeons, and people would be talking shit about her. Basically every dungeon run she did. And they'd be fully twinked out. They'd have really awesome gear, and she'd have like starter shit. And they wouldn't wait for her. You know, they just run ahead. Nobody gave a shit. And they just zerg through the dungeon as fast as possible. She couldn't read any of the quests inside of the dungeon. She didn't know where the dungeons even were in the world. Because when I started with World of Warcraft, it was a Burning Crusade. You had to actually run to the fucking dungeon. You didn't just queue for it and then boom, you were. She was completely disconnected from the world when she got into a dungeon. She had no idea where anything was in relation to the world. And that really sucked for her. And I kept telling her, no, it's a pretty good game. You just kind of started at a bad time, you know. It's not very friendly to new players. And man, it seemed like just about every dungeon someone was talking shit to her, to the point where we just didn't even talk to anyone. We would just go through the dungeon and get through it. And it was just a miserable experience for her. And it just doesn't need to be that way. But it is, because it's a big community and they don't give a fuck. If it was a smaller community and like the game was dying off, all of a sudden shit would start to change. People would start to become more friendly, you know, and that's just the way it is. Smaller communities tend to want to keep people around, and they're more of a close-knit community. You don't have that at all with World of Warcraft unless you meet some really cool people. And I have met some people that are really cool, but for the most part, yeah, really toxic community. So I guess basically what it comes down to for me is it's like a love-hate relationship with World of Warcraft. I do have fond memories of it. You know, I started a long time ago, and I do enjoy the classes, the races. You know, it's hard to find a game with druids. I don't know what that is about games. There's not a lot of druids in games. I always liked that, the fact that they had kind of like the classic style shit from EverQuest. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I do enjoy World of Warcraft. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. I know there's a lot of people who are subscribed to me that absolutely can't stand World of Warcraft, and I can understand that completely, because it marked the beginning of the end of the old school MMORPG. But for me, I'm at the point where I don't really have the time I did back then, and I find that I don't have the patience. You're supposed to develop patience as you get older. And in some things I have developed patience, like dealing with people. But in terms of games, I kind of want a little bit more streamlined games. I don't know if I could really get into the old school way anymore with games. It's weird. I guess I've been spoiled over the years. You know, I don't want to spend like a month trying to get an epic weapon or some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I've kind of adapted and gotten used to the way that MMOs are now. But I am sick and tired of the age of Warcraft. I really am. And I've said this in other videos. I think it's time to move on. I think we need something new, and that's why I've been waving the flag for EverQuest Next and for Crowfall and games that are trying to do something different and pull the genre into a different direction. Because it's become stagnant. It's a genre that a lot of people have walked away from, and they're getting sick of it, and I think that mostly has to do with everybody trying to copy World of Warcraft's success. There's very little originality, and it's gotten to the point where I don't know. I've gone through periods where I don't play MMOs at all. Quite a lot, actually. I'd say I don't play them more than I do. I recently started playing RuneScape again. My recent video was all about RuneScape because I'm just looking for something different from the World of Warcraft formula that's all around us. But yeah, I think it's time for things to move on. That's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy coming back to the next expansion of World of Warcraft later down the road. It's just something that I can see myself coming back to for a few months at a time when the new expansions come out. But I'm ready for the next big thing. And yeah, that's basically my take on World of Warcraft. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest. It's just kind of there, you know. I love the races and classes, like I said. I love the world. But there's a lot of things that I don't like about it that if I could change, I would. Like all the questing. There's so much just like do this, do that, do this, do that. Next zone. Do this, do that, do this, do that. Next zone. That shit gets on my nerves. I'd like the option to be able to go and camp and sit in a camp instead of running dungeons, because when you run dungeons, nobody really talks to you. It's such an anti-social game, and I think that's the biggest thing about it. Back in the day when it first came out, it wasn't really anti-social. People would get together for PvP outside of like Terran Mill and shit like that, and they'd talk. And obviously, the rival factions wouldn't talk, but people were engaged with each other. You'd go through dungeons, and it seemed like people took their time a little bit more back then to get to know one another. You know, on your way to the dungeon, you would talk. You know, running out there or shit like that. So the game has definitely changed over the years, and it's become progressively more and more anti-social. Running through a dungeon, nobody speaks to each other. And if you're not running through dungeons trying to get up to end game, the only thing you're doing is soloing quests, because it doesn't really make sense to get together with people and run quests. I mean, you can do that, but most people are going to solo through that. And I always felt conflicted about that, because it's nice to be able to just rely on yourself and have that self-sufficiency and be able to do what you want, but at the same time, you're fucking paying for an MMO. It's an online, massively multiplayer role-playing game. You're supposed to be able to play and engage the community, right? I mean, that's the way it was with EverQuest Online Adventures. But this is just kind of like a single player inside of an MMO community. And, you know, I'd rather sit around at a camp killing shit than running through dungeons if I had the option. But that's not the way it is. But, yeah, you know, no time to speak to each other because you're always just going as fast as you can to get through everything. And I don't like that. I find that I enjoy the journey more than I enjoy the end game. You know, maybe that's me. I don't know if other people feel that way. My fondest memories of EQOA and even World of Warcraft is pretty much the starting stuff. When you're first starting out and you're exploring your starting city and the world is new to you. That is my fondest memories when I look back. Not running through dungeons or trying to get a piece of gear or you know, trying to take down a raid boss with a bunch of people who are staring at DPS charts. Those aren't fond memories for me. Alright, so that wraps it up for this video, guys. I just wanted to get that out there and let everybody know how I feel about the game. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on the game. I know most of you probably hate it because my subscribers tend to be old school MMO gamers, and some of you I know like it. But yeah, share your thoughts. I always enjoy reading comments. Make sure you leave a like before you take off, and I will see you guys in my next video.
For the Horde!